The Leatherman Wingman, one of Leatherman's budget options. I bought this one used on eBay for $35, pretty close to the original 2011 price. I really like the outside opening scissors on my P4. Having that feature on a tool that costs way less than a free series or surge seemed pretty cool. It has a pretty decent tool set as well, with this hooked package opener. The tools have a pretty strong detent, and I like that you can push the implements out from the other side. The pliers are spring-loaded, not normal for Leatherman, but it feels very natural. It's also quite a compact package, until you compare it to the Spirit, which will make anything look full of dead space. But this is a budget multi-tool. Speaking of, I like the distinct look the scales give the budget line. Now let's get to my two big criticisms. Number 1, the wire cutters. These are anvil cutters, meaning they meet in the middle instead of slicing bypass cutters. These cutters are not very sharp, and they take a lot of pressure to work. Compare that to the free series, hardly any pressure needed. Let's try this very thin nail. The hardwire notch is too big, so I'll use the front of the cutters. Not working. That took 2 hands at the very end of the handles. Here's the P4. Super easy, as you'd expect from a Leatherman. This just feels like a step backwards. The handles also stick out at a wider angle, which does not help. Complaint number 2, the scissors. What is going on? It repels objects. Actually getting it to cut is painful too. Let's try something easy. Still repels, still painful. Let me show you the free scissors. No pain, no pressure, no problem. So what is going on here? Well, there's quite a difference in angle. The Wingman is too wide to grab onto what it's trying to cut. I think this is why. Look how the blade line intersects with the pivot. On the Wingman, it's above the pivot. This seems to be basic scissor design. These mini next tool ones are all great. So this is what I want to do here. Modify the blade to match the free scissor. So let's take it apart. I'm using 2 T10 precision bits. Under the scale there's a plastic spacer. That goes right there. Under the blade is a bronze washer. The knife side has a pocket clip that fits over this hex head. This is the only pivot that looks like this. These are in here quite tight. You can see the holes here are not lining up. That's because there's a spring in the frame forcing it out. And a steel washer. That's the spring there. This makes it very hard to reassemble, but I'll show you a trick that makes it easy. Meanwhile, at the bottom we have the tools, a thinner steel washer, and a spring thing. I'm going to use the crunch to get some leverage on this Torx bit. The other side is the same, and there's the plier head. Here it is all laid out. I'm putting all the screws and washers safely in here. Now it's time to mod. I got some diamond discs from Harbor Freight, and my preferred rotary tool. Don't forget to protect your eyes and lungs. The discs worked, but the blades no longer meet. Whoops! The design is just too different, from the position of the spring to the shape of the handle. I guess we're going to plan B. Victorinox scissors. These are a bit longer, so it's gonna be tight. And there's gotta be room for this spacer. I want to expand this hole downwards to give me a little more room. I'll also need to cut here and here. To drill steel, I'll need a carbide Dremel cutter. I've used it to cut hardened knife steel, so I know it's legit. I also got some larger carbide burrs for this project. I'll be using this cone one. Just gotta make sure not to go past this depth. WD-40 for lubricant. I'm gonna use the Dremel cutter to lower the bottom of this hole while leaving the top in place. Looks good. Now I can expand the hole with the cone burr. Gotta flip it around. It's getting very close. Back to the Dremel cutter. This way I can remove the bevel from the cone. It's perfect. Just gotta get these two. All done. Feels solid. The liner lock engages, and it rests against the frame. Unfortunately, the lock comes up while being closed, so it needs to be held down. I also ground an angle onto this edge for the lock to pass. The stock knife has this too. I added a notch for the scissors to clear, and they fit. I've been wanting to do an acid wash, and I think this is the perfect time. I want to contrast the tools from the unique scales. I'm going to start by cleaning the rust off. There's no way I'm paying $70 for a new one. Now I'm going to polish the scales to contrast with the dark tools. Here's the before and after. Super shiny. And I'm going to polish the pivots so they move smoothly. The pliers had rust, so I'm polishing those as well. Now I'm going to mask off the sharp areas I don't want etched with some enamel nail polish. This includes blades, files, and pivots. I'm using this coated floral wire to suspend the parts from a chopstick. The etching solution I'm using is Ferric Chloride. I'm filling up a glass jar. If you use plastic, make sure it's the right kind. In they go. I've got a stopwatch on for 2-minute baths. After 2 minutes, corrosion builds up that can be brushed off. It's pretty dark already. Let's see if we can get it any darker. Here's 2 minutes and 4 minutes. I did a few more tests, but they didn't seem to get any darker after 2. I also did the screws. For the barrel side of the pivot, I suspended the openings above the acid to preserve the threads. The chloride can be put in its original bottle and reused. And the dirty water can be neutralized with baking soda. Be careful though, this can make a big mess. The tools need to be rinsed and neutralized as well. The final step is removing the nail polish with acetone. All the pieces are ready. It's time for assembly. This thicker steel washer goes behind the pliers. This spring is quite firm, so I'm going to clamp it down to align with the plier hole. Remember to put the hex one near the pocket clip notch. The tools get stacked in this order with the smaller steel washer. The inside of the spring housing will show you which side to put the washer on. Bronze washer under the knife, plastic spacer down here, and the scale. Now here's the tricky part. The second frame will get blocked by the first frame, preventing the spring from being fully compressed. So I wedged a precision bit into the pliers, creating a gap between the frames. Now the spring gets fully clamped down. We did it! Before adding the scissors, I painted this bump to mark where the knot should be. Right there. I'm using this diamond ball from a Harbor Freight set. There it is. Don't worry, it won't be visible. Now the lock can sit flush. I'm going to give the tools a head start with a slight amount of wear. Can't forget to lubricate it. I'm using Leatherman recommended PTFE lubricant. And a brand new scissor spring. And now, the new and improved Leatherman Wingman. This is as good as the Wingman gets. Now, is that saying much? Not really. This was a lot of fun to make, and I think it looks pretty good. If you're looking for a budget Leatherman, I'd probably go for the Bond or the rebar. Those don't have scissors or outside opening tools, but the rebar is a solid option. Or keep an eye out for a Wave on eBay. If you're looking for this particular tool set, then the Free P2 is perfect. If you're looking for this exact tool, I'm selling it. It'll be on my Etsy shop. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Maybe I should have sold it before shitting on it.